Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of this channel called Patrick the Runner. My name is Patrick Sheridan and as always I'm here to talk to you all about running. This video today is slightly different than what I've done recently, and that's because, as you may know if you've been following the channel, the indoor season has now concluded and the last race was disappointing enough for me. If you haven't been watching the channel, I am a middle distance runner specialising in the 800 metres at the moment really, and last year I made two national Irish 800 metre championship finals and came 7th in the first one and then I think 10th in the second one. In the indoor season there, just gone a couple of weeks ago, I was hoping to make another final and possibly compete for a medal, but that didn't happen. I narrowly missed out. I came third in my heat when the top two needed to qualify, made a couple of tactical errors, and it was just a disappointing way to end off what had been a decent indoor season. I did win the AAI Games about a month or so prior to that, so I felt like I was in good shape. But anyway, these things happen, you move on, and what I want to do in this video today is explain what my plans are over the next couple of weeks and months, and that's going to involve, as you can see on the video's title and from the thumbnail, a 10k race which I'm gonna do this week. Now today is the 11th of March and it is Tuesday evening. I have just finished work. I'm gonna go out for my second run of the day. I did a session this morning and now I'm gonna go out for an easy run, and my race on Sunday is 5 days away. And what I really want to talk about in the video, I kind of want the video to be structured in two ways. So I want to talk about what my plans are and why I'm deciding to do this 10k race, and then what I want to talk about after that is a couple of key sessions, well actually 3 key sessions that I have done over the last couple of weeks to help prepare me for this 10k, and maybe then you'll be able to consider doing those sessions yourself. And I'm also going to talk about in the first part of the video how I'm approaching this race. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Basically, just as you may know already, and if you're new to the channel has 2 main purposes really. It's one, to document my journey and my progress. I started off about 2.5 years ago running, and in about 6 months took my 10k time down from 37 minutes to 31 minutes. And thereafter, I decided to focus on the middle distance races because I felt like I had potential there. Then in my first track season, I ran 158 for the 800, and then I took this time down to 152 last year. I've also run 351 for the 1500, but this year, just to be clear, I am going to be focusing on the 800 meters. That hasn't changed, but due to the fact that the indoor season has finished, I now want to have a bit of a mental break from that type of training and racing. So I think it's a good idea what I've done, because over the last few weeks I've now built up my mileage back to a good place, which will hopefully help me in the summer because I'll have a bigger base and it means I can race more frequently without losing as much fitness perhaps as I have been when I've been racing and tapering down during those weeks. But yeah, that's really what the purpose of the video is. And then of course, as I said, I want to explain to you all how you can run a better 10k yourself. So hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, I'm going to get stuck into it now. Before I do, please give the video a like if you are enjoying the content and if you find it helpful. Also press that subscribe button. You can also get me on Instagram at PatrickTheRunner97. I really am going to start doing more content there, and I would like to build up a following there. You can also get me on Strava at Patrick Sheridan. All my training and workouts are there, so if you want to do that, follow me there. Okay, so as I explained there, I had a disappointing national 800 meter championships and I didn't get through to the finals. So what that basically meant for me was that I kind of needed to reset a bit and think about what it is that I actually want from running and what it is that I need to do to get to the places that I want to go to. Now, sometimes when you have a really bad result, and hopefully this is something people can relate to, obviously I don't want people to have too many bad results. I don't want to have too many bad results, but it does happen from time to time, and sometimes you don't get the results you want, and in life sometimes you just don't get the things that you want or that you think you should be getting, and that is just part and parcel of running and also life. But look, what I really mean there is that I felt like my fitness was in a really good place, and unfortunately that just didn't translate into the race result that I was hoping to run. So that's made me reevaluate some things. I'm still actively looking for a coach, and I think I probably will get someone to help me at this point in the next few weeks or months. I really don't have a timeline as such on that, but I do think that I could benefit from some help. But in the meantime, I think also, I said in my last video that for a while now I've been running these races and I've been chasing these times, and I've been running really good times. Like as I said there, I took my 800-meter time down from 158 to 152 last year, which was really good. My 1500 time went from 358 to 351, also really good. But this season, I feel like in the indoors, I've just been chasing it a bit too much and almost trying a bit too hard. Not that it's a bad idea to try hard at things, but sometimes you can be trying to force things in training, or maybe force yourself to a place where your fitness isn't there. So I feel like possibly there were a bit too many sessions where I was trying to force the issue to push myself to run these times that maybe I'm just not fit to run yet. So that's kind of made me think it could be good to give me a bit of mental break from that type of middle distance training where I'm doing things like 3x400 off 6 or 7 minute recoveries, and just allow me to build that aerobic engine again and get back to doing a bit more mileage. And it'd also just be a change of stimulus for me and a wee bit of change in setup and environment, which I think can be healthy, and hopefully it'll lead to really good results in the outdoor season. But I also think, and what I was kind of getting at there, is that it's really good to run for times and to chase PBs and all that, but it's also important to remember where you came from and where you are now, and that PBs aren't always that easy to come by. And what I'm saying is that I've got myself to a situation where my trajectory has been on a real upward curve for a while, but it wasn't realistic that that could continue going like that for that length of time, particularly when you get to a certain level. But that kind of has led to me, as I've said, chasing these times that I think possibly are just not quite where I'm at. And I do think I'll get there. Hopefully I'll get there in the summer, but I think it's important sometimes for you to understand that things aren't maybe working as they should be. So you need to look at what you can change. And I think it'll be good for me to get out and to run a 10k race here, because it'll give me a bit of change of scenery. It'll be a different type of race. I obviously won't be going out as hard. I won't be trying to run this positive split. I hopefully, after a few hundred meters, won't feel like my legs are burning. That'll happen in the latter stages of the race, I'm sure, but it won't happen just as early. And the focuses in the race and the strategy in the race will just be a bit different, and I think that'll be something that will be a bit refreshing for me. And I also think it's important to remember that it's important to actually learn how to race and to actually be focused on beating other people and competing against people who are a challenge to you. And I think it's a really good habit to get into, winning races or coming as high as you can rather than just focusing on times. I do always obviously try to win races, but that hasn't really been my focus over the last while. It's just been about getting times, and I think that's good in some ways, but also in things like the nationals, I kind of learned that maybe I've lost a wee bit of the skill of winning races and making good decisions at times that are important in these races. So I think winning races is a skill that I've always had and I've always been able to do pretty well. But obviously when you get to a higher level, it becomes harder to win the races, and fitness also clearly plays a part too. But what I'm saying is that I would like to try my best to win this 10k race coming up, and I'm less concerned about the time. I think I'm at least in shape to run 31 minutes something. Whether I'm in shape to run under that, I'm not really sure. I'll tell you a bit more in the second part of the video when I explain what my sessions were in the build up to this race and how they've gone. Maybe that can give a more of an indication of how my race is going to go, how my race is going to be executed. But yeah, I think that I would just like to try to win the race. I would like to try to approach this race thinking, let's run the first half and just not be that worried about times. Obviously, I want to be pushing myself, but I don't kind of want to be going and thinking, the last time I ran a 10K, I was really focused on running under 31 minutes, and I was like, right, I need to bang out 3:06 Ks or 3:05 Ks to run under the whole time. And I think that led to me becoming a bit excited at the start of the race, and I ran the first K a bit under 3 minutes, and that just does put you in a bit of a lactate deficit, and that's not really conducive to actually running a personal best. Obviously, that's not the way to run a 10K. You kind of want to run even splits or even negative splits, which is obviously where you run the first half of the race slower than the second and pick it up in the second half. So anyway, that's just really where we're at. But yeah, that's, I suppose, just a sum up of where I'm at. So I'm going to do this 10K. I might do a 5K a few weeks later, but basically I'm trying to keep the mileage fairly high. And even this week, tapering, I'm not going to do that much of a taper. I just kind of want to use it as a training exercise. And I think that's good also, because then you don't allow the race to become bigger than it actually is. And sometimes in tapers, I think I have found that your body can almost become a wee bit sleepy, and it is hard to get that balance right between coming in fresh and also not going in feeling sloppy, if that's the word. There probably is a better word, but basically I just want to make sure that I am sharpened but also not too tired. But I think the best way of doing that is me maintaining a pretty decent mileage, and I'm only doing about 55 to 60 miles a week anyway, so I don't really think I need to taper down too much. But look, we'll see how that goes. I really do want to run well on this 10K. It's a 10K that's important to me. It's called Jimmy's 10K. It's happening in Northern Ireland on the 16th of March, which is just before St. Patrick's Day. So it's kind of has historical importance too, because it's in Downpatrick, which is where St. Patrick, I think, is buried. And it just has always been a big race locally in Northern Ireland, which is where I'm from, and it's something that I've always wanted to participate in. I don't actually think I've ever participated in it. I did the 5K relay as a child, where you would run it with someone else, you'd both run 5K, but I never ran the 10K, and it was always something I thought would be really cool to win. So let's see where I can get to on that, and it will be an indicator of my fitness. My current PB is 31:32, so if I could beat that, that would be great, but I really would rather win than run a time like that. And I don't even know exactly yet what the course is like, so there could be some hills and things involved. I'm not sure how fast or flat the course is, and I would really just like to get a good hard effort, and that's really it. I think also sometimes when you're competing at these top levels, and I'm going over now to England to run in the British Milers Club races, and I'm competing obviously in the national championships here in Dublin, and sometimes when you fall a wee bit short there, you can nearly forget how far you've come. And as I said, when I started a couple of years ago, I was running like a 37-minute 10K. I did have a background of sport. I was playing Gaelic football before, which obviously helped me maintain a good fitness level, and I did athletics when I was younger, but it had been about 8 years since I had ran a competitive race, I think, at least. So my fitness has come on so much over the last 2 years, and sometimes you can forget when you go to these events how it's just people in these events who are beating you. 99.999% of people couldn't beat me, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I just mean sometimes you can lose track of where you are, and as I said, I would beat the majority of people in probably an 800 meters or a 5K or a 10K. And as I said, that's not to be boastful. Sometimes I think this race will be good for me mentally, because it's a slightly transitional period for me in terms of coming from the indoor season to the outdoor season, and possibly a few different changes happening in different places, but particularly with reference to a coach and maybe a change of setup there for me. So I think it'll be good for me, as I said, to get a bit of a change of scenery and to go to a race where there's a load of people in and I can potentially win. I think that's a cool thing to do. Now, that doesn't mean that my focus isn't on the middle distances, because it still is, but as I've said, I'm just looking forward to something slightly different, and hopefully that makes sense. Right, so this is the second part of the video where I'm going to talk about the sessions that I did in the lead up to this race that you could maybe consider doing yourselves if you're looking to run a 10K personal best. And I'll also talk slightly about how I'm going to approach the race. But the first session that I did to help really sharpen me for this 10K, and which you could consider doing yourselves, is 10 by 1K of 60 seconds recovery at 10k race pace or your goal 10k race pace. Now this is a session that I have done before. I have also done 12 by 1k before, but the reason I didn't go quite so high this time is because I felt like with the indoor season that I've just spoken about there and some of my recent races, I have possibly been running my races in training, or I've been doing these sessions that have been really good, but then that hasn't translated into the result that I quite wanted to on race day. So what I wanted to do here was get a good stimulus for improvement and get a good race specific session, but I didn't want it to feel like an all out race effort. So my strategy getting into that 10 by 1k session of 60 seconds was to run slightly conservatively for the first 3 or 4 1k reps anyway, and then see if I could progress them whilst making sure that my running form was good and that each 1k rep felt smooth, because I've done this session before and I've probably been in a place where the last 300 or 400 meters of each k rep really felt like I was just racing, and that's great, but you need to also remember that in the race you won't have a 60-second recovery between, and you kind of just want to make sure that you're able to maintain this pace for a race. And I think it's a good way to think about it, as in you need to think about trying to run smoothly and just keeping things as fluid as possible so that you can execute that type of run and that type of strategy on the race day. So I started off the Ks at about 309 and 308 for the first few, and then I moved down to 306, 305, and then for the last couple I think I ran 304 and 303, and that was a really good session for me, and I actually felt really good about it afterwards, because I felt like that's the way you should run the race. You don't want to be starting off too quick. Maybe that can happen with a bit of adrenaline and things like that, but that gave me a big confidence boost going into it. And I would say that whatever you can average for those K reps probably isn't too far off what you're going to average for a 10k. I did do the session without super shoes. I did it on the track, so that probably helps a bit because the track is relatively quick, but I didn't have super shoes on. Obviously I wasn't tapered at all, and I didn't have the adrenaline of a race day, so you would like to think that possibly your performance can get a bit better on the race day than that average. But I would say whatever you average there, it is round about your 10k race pace. So the second key session that I've done over the last couple of weeks was a 2 mile rep, a 2 to 2 30-minute recovery, a 1 mile rep, 2 to 2 30-minute recovery, and another 2 mile rep. And the goal was to do these at 10k effort. Now the reason I say effort and not pace is I think you need to understand and consider a few factors when you're doing any of these sessions really. One, you could be tired and the conditions might not be optimal in that way. Also, the weather conditions and the actual environment that you're running in might not be optimal. Thirdly, you don't have that adrenaline that you have on race day, which helps. And fourthly, I wasn't wearing super shoes, or the shoes that will undoubtedly make me a bit quicker on the day that I race. So with that in mind, I went into this session thinking that I did need to push myself, and I think it is important to bear that in mind. And I don't think I'm someone who gives myself excuses in sessions, and I will always think that in sessions like this, which are race specific and definitely, VO2 type work, you do just have to dig in, and it is gonna hurt. But also, I don't think it's healthy to go into these sessions thinking if I don't hit these paces then it's a disaster, because for the reasons I've mentioned there, you can't just turn up on any given day and run as you're hoping to in a race which is a couple of weeks away. And the reason you're doing this session is to prepare you for the race, and on the race day you'll hopefully have absorbed most of the benefits of this session, so you don't have those benefits yet, and the purpose of the session is to get you ready for that race. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to do this session, don't kill yourself and don't be too down if you haven't quite got to the race paces. You might just be a bit tired, you might just have bad weather, you might be doing it on ideal route as I've said, or maybe you just do need to reevaluate where you're at, and that's fine. But this session for me then was with the intention of trying to run close enough to an average of 306k pace, because that's hopefully roughly about what I'm going to be fit to run at in race day. That would get me 31 minutes on the dot, but I wasn't too concerned if I was 5 or 6 seconds short of that. So I think the first 2 mile rep I ran at about 314k pace, so that was okay. I felt fairly decent, and I think I went a bit too conservatively in the first mile, but again, when you factor in things like super shoes and feeling fresh, and the fact that I did this late at night, I was happy enough with that effort. I thought that's a good effort. It's definitely below my threshold. I think it was quite windy, and you just do need to factor in things like that. But then I had a 2-minute recovery, as I've said, before the mile, and the mile I was able to bang out a bit quicker, I think in about 3:06 pace. And then the last 2 mile, I think I did something like an average of 3:12 pace. The session went something along those lines. I'm not actually sure, but you can check my Strava if you think you would like to see that, and the actual information will be on there. But it went pretty well. Now, if you add that up, it's only 5 miles at race pace, but there are two 2-mile efforts, and that is difficult, I promise you. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. And I just thought, when there were such hard efforts in there, that it didn't make sense to add another mile in just to get to 6, which is obviously a bit closer to what you're running in the 10k. Obviously, the 10k is 6.2 miles, but look, it went really well. I would recommend that you do a session like that to familiarize yourself with running at that 10k pace for prolonged periods of time. Now, you can definitely do something like 5 by a mile or 6 by a mile, which is good too, but I just thought, for me, particularly when I've been doing 800 meter training the last while, that extra bit of endurance and that extra bit of work at 10k race pace would actually benefit me. And hopefully that's a session that some of you will consider doing, and hopefully I've explained it okay there. Okay, so this third session that I did, which I think can help you, and this session has been a staple part of my diet for the last couple of years and has become a pretty focal point in my life. You could say I used to do them once every week, but now I do them on a less regular basis than that, maybe about 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm not saying you need to do that, but they're something that I enjoy doing, and I do them every 6 to 8 weeks, and that is a 30-minute tempo run. Now, when I say the word tempo, I'm talking about my threshold pace, which is what I would call my LT2 pace, or my anaerobic threshold pace, and this is a pace that you could probably run for about an hour. I'll not go into the benefits of threshold training because I've done it before, and you can see my videos on lactate threshold training and what that is if you haven't seen those already. So if you haven't seen those already, those actually are pretty informative, if I may say so myself. But anyway, whatever I can do that 30-minute tempo in usually is a decent indication of my 10k fitness, because usually my 10k fitness is about 10 to 15 seconds, maybe even 15 to 20 seconds quicker than whatever I do that tempo in. Now, obviously, the tempo is supposed to be at a controlled effort. Tempo pace is usually about 80 to 90% of your maximum effort. So my heart rate will be at about 80 to 90% of my maximum heart rate during this run. And it's important that it's not a race effort. It's a hard effort because threshold work is hard, and a 30-minute sustained effort is just difficult. But it's not overly hard, and you should feel that you could probably be running about 5 or 6 seconds quicker if you had to. And that's probably how I felt during that run. My heart rate was also quite low. I think I averaged about 157, which is a fairly low heart rate for me in terms of my threshold training. It's usually more about 161. I think my maximum heart rate was in the 160s as well. So it indicated that I was in good shape. And I did that there on Saturday, I think, so 3 days ago. And it just felt pretty smooth compared to what it has felt like before. And I think I ran 3:23k pace, but as I've said, it just felt pretty good. So hopefully that indicates that I'm in good 10k shape. But definitely those are something that you can incorporate into your training. And I think, for me anyway, it's kind of good to get used to running for that prolonged period of time, because a 10k race is going to take me approximately 30 minutes. So it's a good idea for me to run at about that, for that duration, at a good pace, even if it's not all out. And it is important that it's not all out, because that session, that tempo session, isn't like the other two. The other two really are a VO2 example sessions. They are VO2 sessions, whereas this one isn't that. It is supposed to be controlled. You aren't supposed to be all out, but it does, I think, give you a good indication of your base fitness and what you could run for a 10k. Because, as I've said, for me, if I can run within that 3:20 minute range, I'm probably not that far from running at least 31 something. So anyway, I suppose time will tell, but it gives me a good indication that on Sunday I can run a good 10k race. Okay, so look, that's the video there. Those are my 3 key sessions, and I have also explained why I'm doing this race, and I think it'll be really good for me. It really would be very cool to win this race or to do well, and it's something that would mean a lot to me. So look, hopefully I can go out, give it my best, and let's see if I can run well at least on the day. It's not do or die whether I win or not, but I'll still want to win, but I will be happy and proud if I can go out and give a good effort, and I'll know whether or not I'm in good shape afterwards, because my time and how it felt will tell me. But I don't try to hide from these things. I want to win the race, so that's what I'm going out, and that's what I'm going to try to do, because I do want the channel to be transparent at the end of the day. Anyway, look, I hope that video was helpful. Send me any questions at all, please, in the comment section on those 10k sessions, what you think of them. Also, let me know any other 10k sessions you do. I would like this channel to be one where people can all help each other, so feel free to comment on my sessions how you think they'll help me, if you think they would help you. Ask me any questions about them if there's something there that I haven't explained, because sometimes I do forget to explain things. But yeah, send me any questions. Please do let me know what 10k sessions you do, what you think can help, and it would just be good if we could really get that discussion going, because that is what it's all about, and I am doing my best to show you how my training's going, and I would like to help other people, but it'd also be cool if other people could help other people. So that's what I want to do there. Look, please do also, you've no idea how much this means to me and it helps me. If you like the video, it doesn't cost anything. Also, please subscribe if you're enjoying the channel, because it also doesn't cost anything, but it helps me out massively. It does take time and effort to do these videos, so I really do appreciate the help. And yeah, please leave any questions and comments in the comment section, because that does help. So if you have a thought, please share it. And that's really it. Wish me luck. My race is on Sunday, so when this video comes out, it'll be a couple of days away just, and hopefully you'll see how I get along. Also, just finally, give me a follow on Instagram at PatrickTheRunner97, because I'm starting to put more content up there, and yeah, that's really it. Look, I will leave it at that, and in the meantime, take care, have a great week. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more. See you.